Logic's Drummer is a fantastic sounding virtual drum kit, and when we load the producer kit, Logic instantiates a variety of plugins and sends and a whole routing setup to get it sounding good. Now, they do sound good, but with UAD plugins, we can really get a lot more life out of these drums. Here's the default setting of the Neo Soul producer kit with a drummer part, with all the default routing and values set in. Sounds pleasant. There's nothing wrong with that. And now here's what it sounds like with no processing at all. And now here's my version beefed up with some UAD processing. So they sound really nice. Let me show you what I've got going on. Now I have the two kicks sending, and this is set up by the default Logic Drummer production kit, sending to a bus here called sub. And what I've done is I've put on here the Little Labs Voice of God, and this is a fantastic bass resonance tool. The frequency and the amplitude are the main controls, and I have the amplitude dialed up in full to beef up the low end. Here's without it. So it's really adding a lot. Now next on the snare, I've got the Empirical Labs Fatso Jr. And this is great to grab the transients and add some thick saturation. And after this, I've just added a bit of EQ to beef up the low end and a bit of crispness on top. So it adds some nice shape to it. Now, the thing that really makes this kit sing is the room sound. What I've done is muted and brought down the internal drum kit rooms and muted any of the reverb. Well, I've muted all the Logic plugins. And from the overheads, I'm sending to a bus where I have the Ocean Way room plugin on it. And this is really adding a lot of character. There's also a parallel compression bus that I'm sending into the Ocean Way as well. So let me show you what this sounds like. Here's the overheads without this. And now with this, and that's with the compression feeding in as well in the parallel bus. So here I'm using it in remic mode, which I like, and I've customized the mic choice a bit. I'm really boosting the low end. I like getting a lot of kick and snare, but kick in this case in the room sound. And I'm attenuating a bit up high. So that's adding a lot of character, and here it is in the mix. And out. So I find that really adds a lot. Now, the toms have a send on each of them, again, by default, going to a bus for some tom compression, and I've got just a pretty standard LA2A on there just to beef them up a little bit. But I got a couple of unique things going on here to get the transients to really pop. On the parallel compression bus, I've got the Fairchild 670, and I'm really pushing it hard. Bear in mind, this is parallel. And it's dialed with the threshold and input gain all the way up, an aggressive threshold. I've dialed the headroom up, and here's what it sounds like. Here's without the send to the room. So that's aggressive. I'll bring it up. And now with the send to the Ocean Way. Now the other thing that's really helping the transients pop is on this distortion return. And again, this is just created by Logic's producer kit. It's basically just a send from some of the tracks that come here. I could rename it. I'm using it for a kind of parallel transient shaping. And I've got the Elysia Alpha mix on it. And it crushes the transients for a nice parallel transient shaping. Again, let me solo it and then I'll bring it up and show you what it's doing. It's a really quick attack. Bring it up. So it adds a nice kind of element to the attack of the drums. And finally, on the master drum channel, I've got the V76 preamp, and I'm using this to really drive it and then cut the output a bit, just to add a bit of that thick analog low mid end, and it just dulls the top end a tiny bit. Let me mute it on and off and you'll hear what it's doing. So a nice kind of polishing touch. And one last little thing on the hi-hat, I've boosted the gain and I'm using the Mag 4 to really add some crispness to it. Here it is alone, without it. So those are the UAD plugins with Logic's Drummer. This is Eli Kranzberg for Logic Pro Expert.